We are coming up on the end of September, so that means it's time for me to give you another garden update. So it's kind of hard for me to believe, but September is almost over, which means that the gardening season is also almost over, because I don't really do a fall garden. It's not something I have played around with yet. It's something I would like to do, you know, planting things like kale and winter squash and that sort of thing, but I haven't done it yet, and I haven't done it this year. So right now, it's all the summer stuff just hanging on until the end. And because the season is almost over, that means that the garden is looking pretty wild right now. I mean, it is at its peak stage of just things kind of being everywhere, all sprawled out, and also we're at the point where I've started neglecting the garden just a little bit because, you know, we have been doing stuff for so long. I'm not quite as enthusiastic as maybe I was at the beginning of the year, so things are kind of everywhere, which is fine with me. I mean, my goal with my garden isn't for it to look perfect. My goal is for it to produce yummy food and flowers and that sort of thing for us to enjoy, and just to be kind of a fun project to do. So I'm going to show you around the garden today. I'm going to show you how everything's doing, but just know this is like peak mess where we are right now. Things are growing into the paths. You can't even walk through a lot of these spaces, which makes it a little bit of a maze to go through when I'm trying to pick stuff, but I also think it's kind of fun to see how everything has really grown from just a little seed to being these huge giant plants that are just taking over everything. So let's take a walk around the garden and I'll show you how everything's doing. Okay, so I thought maybe the best thing we could do first is just give you an overview. Now obviously this goes back pretty far, so you can't see everything, but this should give you a feel for how the garden is doing right now. I mean, it is just a mass of plants just kind of everywhere, growing all over the place. And talking about things growing all over the place, I think the marigolds are a perfect example of that. So if you remember when I first planted the garden at the beginning of the summer, I had these planted, you know, between like this cage and this cucumber trellis, and they were just like a couple little plants, you know, spaced out here, same over here. They have just exploded. They're everywhere, which I think is awesome. It's my first year doing marigolds. I have a mixture, a seed mixture that I bought, so it has some different colors in here, which is really fun. You can see we have like some yellow ones over there. These ones are these, you know, kind of bi-color ones, and there's other colors throughout the garden, but they're doing really well. I've been able to pick some and bring them in the house, which has been nice, but they really have just totally spread out. So now I know for the future that maybe I don't need to plant quite as many, even though the plants looked really small to start off, because as you can see, I mean, you can't even walk through this path anymore because they have totally covered it, which is a minor inconvenience, but I think is also pretty awesome. Something else I wanted to point out is just how different the results can be in your garden depending on where you're planting or what's going on. It's really interesting to me. So if we come over here, there are 4 tomato plants planted here. They have not done very well at all. I've gotten a few fruits off them, but as you can see, they don't really have anything going on. Like, they aren't bushy, nothing is really happening. And so it could be really easy, like if I had just planted these 4 tomatoes, to say tomatoes don't grow well, or I had terrible luck with tomatoes this year, or these varieties don't grow well, or whatever. But you can't really know that because, you know, if we look at other parts in the garden, you can see we have so many tomato plants out here, and some of them are really thriving and doing great. And there are even situations where, you know, I'll have the same variety of plant planted in different spots of the garden, and in one area they're like booming, and in another area they're really struggling. And who knows, maybe that's the soil in that particular area, maybe it's the other things they're planted next to, maybe those particular plants, just those starts were stronger, and so they just kept going stronger throughout the year. It could be sunlight, it could be so many different factors. So just keep that in mind if you are trying out new varieties in your garden, or if you start planning for, you know, next year's garden or things like that, that just because you grew something once and it didn't really work out, maybe it is a dud, but it might not be the case. It could have just been, you know, the weather that year, where you planted it, or whatever. So don't give up on varieties. I think it's a good idea to, you know, keep trying them in different situations, and then after a while, if something just isn't working, then sure, maybe that's not the one you want to plant in your garden. But, you know, just one experiment, 1 year, one example isn't the thing you should use to make your decision on whether a variety is a good one for you, or maybe one that you want to skip. And continuing on in that vein, this is a new variety for me this year that has done great, but also terrible. So this was the Isis candy tomato. First year growing it, people say it tastes amazing. And you can see the plants have done pretty well. I mean, they're big, they're tall, they've got flowers and stuff on them, but never really got any tomatoes off of this one. Got maybe like, I would say less than a dozen tomatoes, and they're cherry tomatoes. So like there's a green one right there, and there's one right there, but overall out of these 4 plants, I have not gotten very many ripe tomatoes at all. And I don't really know why. And it's especially frustrating because this is a variety I was really excited about because it was new for me, and I had read so many good things about how the flavor was just amazing and the color was beautiful, because this one is one that has, you know, kind of like a color shift where it's yellow on one end and then it kind of fades to red on the other end, which is really pretty. So I was super excited to see what we're gonna get out of this, and then we got basically nothing. So it's annoying, but I think I will grow this one again. You know, in the future, I'm gonna try it in different spots, see, you know, if I can get a different result. Maybe I won't plant 4 of them in the future. Maybe I'll, you know, plant 2 or something like that, so I can devote some of my space to tomatoes that I know I love and that do really well. But I'm not gonna give up on this one yet because I have read really great things about it, and it might just be that this year wasn't its year. So it's still gonna stay in the collection, and hopefully maybe in the future I can get something out of it. As far as peppers go, we've had a great year for peppers. As you can see, this jalapeno plant is loaded down again. I need to do another big jalapeno harvest. There's another one there. There's another one there, and there are even some down in the middle there you can see. So these are doing great, and there are even some little ones. So we'll see how these are able to do. Usually the first frost in my area comes around like late October, so hopefully, you know, we can get as much out of these as possible. I need to start picking some of these so the plant can start putting effort into the little ones that are left. But you know, this plant has done well, and we've got jalapenos all throughout the garden, and this has been great. And it's actually the first year I've grown jalapenos, which might sound weird, but I like to get all those, you know, different like weird crazy varieties. So I just had steered away from these, but Jason was very pro the jalapeno. I think it was a great decision because, you know, we have been getting so many and they've just been great to have on hand. So I'll definitely be sticking with these again in the future. Now, with that said, I still love all of my crazy weird shapes and fun colors when it comes to peppers. So another variety that I think is going to stick around in the future is this one. This is the Chinese 5-color pepper. I've shown this to you before, obviously, but I think it's really cool to just see it in the different stages. Right now, we've got a lot of red peppers on now, you know, some of these bright orange, and then still some more young purple ones, because they start purple, then they go to kind of this yellowy color, and then they shift into, you know, more of a yellow, and then the orange, and then finally to this red, which has been really fun to see, you know, all of these different colors on the plant. It is a decorative plant, but it's also edible, and so I really like that. You know, it's a lot of little peppers. I just think it's really fun. Jason is super in love with it, so we will definitely grow this one again because it's just something different, and I love the rainbow effect that you get from it. And look, we've got a little helper friend out here while we were filming today. That's another thing I love seeing is all of the bees buzzing around in the garden, pollinating all the different flowers. And that's one fun thing about growing a garden is you do get to help out the bees. You give them a food source, which they need, and growing flowers can help with that because it attracts them. You know, the flowers that the plants have attract them, but having all of these flowers all over the garden with these bright colors also helps to bring them in. And it looks like this guy is really enjoying it. And another thing about bees that's nice is that they will stick to one plant. So as you've seen, this little bee has been buzzing all around this one marigold bush, and that's why they're great pollinators, because they stick with one plant. So if they're pollinating cucumbers, they will go from cucumber to cucumber, which helps you get fruit, as opposed to other insects which might go from a cucumber to a zucchini or whatever, which doesn't really help you out at all. So bees are good to have, and they are very hard workers in the garden, and we couldn't have all of our garden produce without them. Something else I really need to start working on now is basil processing. So as you can see, there is tons of Italian basil here, all of this Thai basil across here that is, you know, flowering and going wild. Oh, there's another little bee friend. He's working on the basil there. But there's so much of this, and you know, we eat it, but we can't eat all of it. And then we'll just walk over to this bed, and you can see there's peppers down here, more peppers. They're trying to grow, so even more peppers I need to pick. But also, there's basil all through here, and a lot of this has flowers on it that I need to come out here and pick off. As I said, I've been a little bit neglectful, but I need to come out here and start really processing because I've been slacking on that. And this is all, you know, good food we can use. So I need to start working on, I don't know, drying it, pureeing it, you know, all kinds of things to freeze, whatever, just so we can try to save as much of this as possible to have throughout the fall and the winter and the spring until next year's garden. Another new variety that I've really enjoyed this year is the purple bumblebee tomato. Now I just picked some of these the other day, so there aren't any that are quite ready to harvest, but you can see they kind of have this striped look, and you know, they get brighter red as they ripen, but they kind of have these green and red stripes. These are really pretty to look at. They have been very productive, and they taste pretty good. Now, they still don't beat out my favorite, which is the black cherry tomato. That is the best tomato I've ever had. But they've done really well. Like I said, tons of production, and they taste good. They're a nice tomato to have, and I've used them in a lot of different things, and they just kind of hit all the marks for me. They taste good, they're pretty to look at, and they've been productive. So you can't really beat that, and I'm just really happy with them. And I like having, again, these cool varieties in the garden, like these ones with the stripes and stuff, because it's not just stuff you really find. So in addition to, you know, homegrown tomatoes having that amazing flavor that you really can't find anywhere else except maybe your farmer's market, also being able to grow these varieties that are a little bit more interesting, you know, look a little bit different. I really, really love that part. And so I think this one is definitely going to be one that we grow again because it has just done so well. And of course, there were some other disappointments in the garden this year. Our melons did not do very well at all, especially compared to how well they did last year. So that was kind of a bummer. You know, some of the tomatoes varieties I grew didn't do very well. And then also another thing that didn't do well was the squash, which y'all got to see that whole mess. If you haven't seen the other garden updates throughout the year, then you can go back and see the squash saga. But with that said, that's kind of part of gardening, and that's why I like it. It's like, it's not that everything is going to do great or amazing or wonderful, but it's fun because you do get to see that some things will do great and you'll get really great production and other things won't. And it's just kind of the whole process that I really find enjoyable, is not looking for perfection or anything like that, but just, you know, seeing what does well, seeing what doesn't do well, you know, trying to tweak things and learning different things about the plants as you go along, and from year to year getting to try different things, different techniques, different varieties, and just learning more and more all the time. And I think that whole thing is a lot of fun. And I really want to encourage you, you know, now that my gardening season is coming to an end, that doesn't mean that thinking about gardening is over. So depending on what part of the world you live in, maybe gardening is something that's just kind of getting ramped up for you. So I would encourage you to look into growing something. And if you are like me going into fall or winter, also know that this is a great time to get on the list for some seed catalogs. If you haven't done that, if you haven't grown stuff before, or if you haven't gotten on the catalog list, totally do that. Seed Savers Exchange, you can just sign up to get their catalog and it'll just get sent to you. If you sign up now, totally free. Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds is another place where I have gotten seeds from, so that's another catalog you can sign up for. And it just comes to your door, you don't have to pay for it, and then you can start looking through all the seeds when that comes. And I always think that's really exciting when I see the seed catalog come in the mail and I get to start to imagine what's going to be for the year ahead. So no matter what the weather is like where you are, definitely get on those lists, you know, start looking at seeds if you are able to grow stuff where you are. And just know that you don't have to have a garden that looks like mine. It doesn't have to be the style that I do, the kind of setup I do. It could be bigger than mine, it can be smaller than mine. It doesn't matter. You can just do something that fits with the space you have and the things that you like and your climate and all of that sort of thing. And that's another fun thing about gardening, is it is so personal to your preferences and also where you live. And, you know, even if you don't have a huge outdoor space or any outdoor space at all, you can grow herbs on your windowsill. Anyone can do that as long as you have sunshine coming in through that window. You can grow some herbs to provide a ton of great flavor for your food and also save you some money from buying herbs at the grocery store that are going to go bad later. So I think this is going to be the last garden update for me this season, because this time next month I'm probably be out here scrambling trying to pick everything before the last frost comes, and then it's just going to be bare plants here for you to look at. So I think this is going to be the last one for this year, but I want to thank all of y'all who have watched these gardening videos throughout, you know, this growing season. I know these aren't necessarily the most popular videos on my channel, but I love making them because gardening is something that I love. It's one of my hobbies, and I think it does fit in with all this healthy lifestyle stuff really well. and it's something that I enjoy looking for information about, and I enjoy seeing other people's gardens, so I want to share that with y'all. And I've had several of you tell me that, you know, watching my videos has given you ideas for different varieties to try, or maybe inspire you to start your own garden, which I think is amazing, because I think, you know, having a garden and growing food is such a fun and rewarding activity, so I'm happy that I can inspire some of you to come along and do it too. But with that said, that's going to be it for today. I hope you liked this video. Let me know in the comments how your garden is doing, what you have going on right now, no matter where in the world you live. And if you happen to be new here and you want more healthy eating tips and nutrition info and videos like this one, then make sure that you subscribe, because eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle really doesn't have to be complicated, and I want to show you how to do it. And if you want to watch some more videos, I will have a couple linked over here that you might like. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.